game that, as far as the 2024 standings go, has little to no meaning. As far as the future goes for the Patriots, could have significant meaning. We'll get to that as we get going here. We'll get to some of what was said this week down at Gillette as well, how the Patriots should handle the game. Your calls, 617-779-0985. If you have thoughts on today or the upcoming offseason for the Patriots, as we get going here on the final Sports Hub Sunday kickoff of the regular season. Good morning, Cerrone. Yes, Cerrone?
Sorry about that. It's a good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm ready to kind of see. There's this week I feel like has been a lot of anticipation in regards to the offseason.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, as we get going, things have already started here. Adam Schefter just now, the Browns have already fired their offensive coordinator and their offensive line coach. So not waiting for Black Monday. We will see what the Patriots do, but that's where I wanted to start here, Sir. What is at stake today with the Patriots, specifically as it relates to the coaching staff? And we'll start with Jerod Mayo. Is this job safe or not? Is he back or not? Let's start here. One way or the other. Do you think, now these are two separate questions.
Yeah.
Do you think the Kraft's mind is already made up, yes or no? And do you think the way today's game goes, do you think Mayo can save or lose his job based on today's game?
I think the first part, I think their minds are made up. I think they know what they're going to do. I think they've known now for a while. I think they're going to keep him. And I think they understand, what's going on around them when it comes to the roster and stuff like that. And I don't think today would play any way into, if Jerod keeps his job or not. I think it's just something that, I think they just want to see if these guys will play hard. I think this is a big game for the players and how they play and how they respond about who stays and who goes. More so than Mayo. I think he's secure. Him and Drake May, I think the only two guys I think that the Krafts are really sure about at this point right now.
Do you think that's the right move?
I think so. And that's not just the Patriots thing. I think around the league in terms of coaching, I think the way you build culture, the way you build something and you build a solid foundation is with time and consistency. And I think if you go back and look at all the Super Bowl coaches over the last 20 years or so, most of them were the guys that were around a while. If you look at the standings right now, all the teams leading in every division basically is just whatever division has the veteran coaches. Those are the teams that are usually winning. I think this constant shuffling of coaches just keeps you in the middle of the pack or at the bottom. So I think in order to establish some kind of culture, you have to give these coaches time and let them build their rosters up.
It'll be interesting to see. I don't think, for the most part, I don't think today should have an impact on Jerod Mayo's status. And what I mean by that is if you beat a bunch of backups, you beat a bunch of backups. I don't think that's necessarily worth saving a job. If they lose with their backups in, well, the roster already wasn't good enough. And you lost with the worst players on the worst roster, so how can that cost you your job? Now, if they play their starters the whole game and lose to the Bills' backups, that's another story. That could maybe be the final, that could maybe be the tipping point for Jerod Mayo and other coaches, and we'll get to the assistants as well. I kind of want to dedicate some time here to Mayo, and then we'll get to the rest of the staff. So I do wonder if ownership has made their mind up or not at this point, and I would understand if not. You kind of have that conversation this week. You reconvene Monday. You come to a final decision one way or the other. But I don't think, pending a really bad loss, I don't think Mayo can help himself today one way or the other.
Yeah.
A really bad loss maybe tilts things not so much in his favor, but if they just lose like a normal, like we've seen all year, right?
24-21.
Right, exactly. Then I don't know how you look at it and you say, well, yeah, that was the one I needed to see. Not 40-7 against the Chargers. That one didn't convince me. But this loss in this meaningless Week 18 game, that's the one that convinced me. The other factor here is with the first overall pick on the line. So just to clear up some confusion, because I know there are a couple of people who got this information wrong last night. I think it was Field Yates tweeted out that the Giants were no longer in the running for the first overall pick, and it confused some people in regards to where the Patriots stand right now. If the Patriots lose, they get the first overall pick, period, full stop, end of story. If they lose, they have the pick. There are no tiebreakers. There's nothing else that can come in and pull the rug out at the last minute. They will have the first overall pick. If they win, the highest they can pick, they still could pick first. The highest they can pick if they win is second. The Browns are already guaranteed to have 3 wins. The Patriots will have the better pick of all the 4-win teams. So now it comes down to the Titans and Giants. If the Titans lose, the Patriots can't pick any higher than third if they win. If the Giants lose, then the Patriots end up with that 4th pick because all the other teams lost out. With that first overall pick on the line, very much on the line, do you think there's a chance ownership went downstairs and said, maybe didn't guarantee Mayo he'll be back next year, but maybe somehow communicated, hey, your evaluation is what it is. If you lose this game, we're not going to hold it against you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think there's any chance that maybe something like that happened?
Probably. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's some kind of conversation one way or the other, something like that was said. But I think the hard part is now convincing the players to ease up, convincing the players to lose this game or whatever. We've seen the last couple of weeks. We've seen the Raiders. We've seen the Giants basically play their best games of the season at the end when everybody's expecting them to go ahead and lose. I think the Giants scored like 40-plus points or something like that and went off.
Right.
I mean, the coaches understand that, the GM and the ownership, but trying to convince the players, your starters, let's just say your starters, convince them to take it easy. And then on the flip, trying to convince your backups, who are guys playing for their lives, playing for their careers, to not play hard in this game at the end of the season. So I think I understand they probably have said it, but I think the players will be the ones who determine how this game goes today. Mayo could try all he can. Let's ease down on the offense. I'm gonna put my third string guys in, but if one of them goes off and has a Jonas Gray type of game, there's nothing you can really do about it. And I mean, fans are going to get upset, but what do you want the guy to do, to run out of bounds when he's playing for his life?
So I'll just remind everybody of this. Like, tanking does not happen at the player level. It really doesn't happen at the coaching level. It's one thing if Mayo has been given assurances by ownership, our mind's already made up, then maybe. But there's no incentives for the players to play poorly to help the Patriots get the pick.
Yeah.
These are guys that are playing to have a role on this team next year or elsewhere. They want to put good film out so they can continue their careers in the league. They have no motivation to help the Patriots draft their replacements. That's just not how it works. Coaches too. Again, Mayo, maybe there's been some kind of conversation with ownership. Alex Van Pelt, coaching for his job here or elsewhere next year. DeMarcus Covington, coaching for his job here or elsewhere next year. It's not like you're just going to see them come out and dial up, a quarterback sneak on 1st and 10. Those guys are coming out.
Run the option all day.
That doesn't mean it's the best thing to do for the Patriots to win the game, and we'll get to the value of that first overall pick. But tanking does not happen at the player level. So don't expect guys going out there, dropping passes, blowing coverages, committing penalties, things like that. It's not Madden. That's not what this is. That doesn't mean that it's not better for the Patriots to lose the game. But like you said, with the Giants last week, you had guys playing for pride. You had guys playing for jobs. And that's what happens. And that's kind of the weird thing about weeks like this is the players, they don't care. They don't care about the first overall pick or anything like that because a lot of them probably aren't going to be here next year. Or if they are in much smaller roles, they're going to be competing for jobs. So they need to show up. So they're not focused on the pick. The people focused on the pick are Elliott Wolf and up. And again, maybe Gerard Mayo, if ownership has already told him he's safe. At this point, we don't know. Barry in New Bedford, I think, has a thought on that. Barry.
Hey, doubling down on failure is what ends up ruining a franchise. Go ask the San Francisco 49ers and how long they kept Trent Baalke and kept the musical chair of clowns from New York, Tom Sula. I'd go on and on. It took them 2 years to blow the building out. Rearranging the deck chairs on this sinking ship isn't going to fix it. You have a chance with all this cap space, you're not in cap hell, all these picks, franchise quarterback, to reset the culture, really reset the culture, not bring back a Bill guy. Wolf and Mayo and Covington and Groh have been with this organization for the past 5 years. Nothing's going to change unless you blow the entire thing out. If you don't, like I said, We would be the Jets, and Kraft will be Leon Hess, and this will drag itself out, and eventually you're going to lose everybody.
All right, thanks for the call, Barry. I think that's how. I think there's a good sentiment of the fan base that feels that way this morning.
Yeah.
That just wants to completely hit the reset button.
But you better have some replacements. If you fire everybody, you better have capable people to take over all those positions. New coordinators, new coaches, new GM. That's a lot of resetting. And then you better be right. There's no guarantee those guys are going to be right and work well together. Excuse me. Go ahead.
So that's why, to me, no, I'm glad you said that because it sets up my take perfectly. Let's say the Patriots do move on. And look, I kind of said this in the email. We'll do the full, favorite candidates, all that next week if it's applicable.
Yep.
Right. We'll do the coaching search thing when we know there's a coaching search because there's other things I want to get to about today and about the draft pick and things like that. I'm not ruling it out. I'm just saying we're not going to spend a ton of time on that today when we don't know if Gerard Mayo will be back or not. I will say this part, though. If there is a coaching search, number one to me, the number one thing I think you're looking for, everybody's caught up. You need to get an offensive coach for Drake May, all that. You've had enough defensive coaches, offensive coach. There's an argument to be had there. I'm not saying there's not. Number one for me is an experienced head coach, an experienced NFL head coach. Mm-hmm. Offense, defense, I don't really care. I want a guy because what the Patriots need right now more than anything else, and you've seen other people talk about this, they need somebody who can come in, set up a program, establish a culture, and the game management element of it as well. You need somebody who can do all that and somebody who has done that successfully in the past. So I look at Mike Vrabel. I look at Brian Flores. I look at Brian Daboll if he gets let go in New York. And to the caller's point, you need to reset everything. The attractive thing about Vrabel, it's super rare in the NFL that you see owners hire somebody to a high-level position, GM, head coach, that they have zero experience with. Mm-hmm. There's different levels to that, obviously. But Vrabel, to me, is kind of the perfect balance. It does seem like the Crafts like him, just based on the Hall of Fame ceremony last year and all that. There's a level of trust there. But at the same time, he never coached here. His experience is at Ohio State. It's in Houston. It's in Tennessee. It's in Cleveland. He's not coming in with that Bill Belichick perspective. He certainly learned a lot of the game from Bill,
right,
from playing for him. But coaching-wise, he's coming in with a different perspective. So I think he's the perfect happy medium. A guy like Brian Flores as well. I love the program Kevin O'Connell has built in Minnesota. If you can get a piece of that, I think that would be fantastic. Obviously, Daboll, he's been in Buffalo. He's been in New York right now. He was at Alabama with Saban for a little bit. I think he had a couple stops before the Patriots as well, if I remember correctly. That's top of the list for me. I don't know if you feel differently, but if they do make a change, top of the list for me, you've got to get somebody who has coached in the NFL before. Replacing a rookie head coach with another rookie head coach, I think, is a bit of a fool's errand because, for instance, a guy like Ben Johnson, great offensive mind, absolutely, great offensive mind. How does he handle the locker room? Mm-hmm. How is he going to handle the day-to-day of running an organization? Dan Campbell has the leadership quotient filled and then some in Detroit. Ben Johnson hasn't had to do that.
Yeah.
Great offensive mind, but what's to say he's not Mike McDaniel? What's to say he's not Josh McDaniels in Las Vegas, right? Guys like that. We've seen really good offensive coordinators go elsewhere and not be the guy. So to me, they need to get some. If they move on, it's all about getting somebody with experience.
Yeah, and I kind of feel the same. If you're going to do it, I mean, I would like Flores. I mean, like you mentioned several times before, what he did in Miami, I think is getting really overlooked. He
got a raw deal in Miami, a raw deal.
Getting overlooked. His teams are going to play hard.
Yeah.
They're going to scheme well defensively. They're going to keep you in the game. And if you have a quarterback that goes with that, that's how you usually win games on this level. And look, I think the musical chairs of coaches I don't think it plays well with anybody. So if you're going to make a move, whoever you bring in here, I think there has to be some kind of assurance that you're not going to be the next Gerard Mayo. I mean, you're one and done. If we don't win 10 games, you're fired. If you keep playing that game, you're going to be. This is part of the reason, part of how Belichick was able to dominate this division, or how some other coaches are able to dominate a division for years after years. The other teams constantly changing coaching quarterbacks year after year after year. They never establish any footing, and you don't want to be that team. So if you do get rid of Mayo and you bring somebody in, you have to be willing to say, hey, man, win or lose, you're our guy for the next 3 years or whatever it is. You have to commit to something. If it's Mayo, okay, if you're going to commit to Mayo, fine, commit to him, and you have to ride this thing out. If you're going to fire him, whoever you bring in, Vrabel, Flores, whoever, you have to commit to that guy for years and allow him to establish that culture. If not, you're just going to keep you're going to be the Bills over the last 20 years, and you don't want to be in that situation.
So that's the head coaching situation heading into Week 18 against the Bills. Jerod Mayo, does today impact ownership's decision one way or the other, if he stays or if he goes? I don't think so, pending something spectacular, a bad loss to backups. I think, Cerrone, you're in the same boat. You don't think today impacts his job either, but that's still out there. And then the assistants. What about the assistant coaches? I want to get to that as well. We'll do that next. Plus your call, 617-779-0985 here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub.
Get up!
on a year-to-year basis, but there still will be a carryover of guys. And so when you can carry over an offense into an offseason, you can kind of sometimes build upon it in a lot of ways, where when you bring in someone new, I mean, you're learning that scheme and trying to implement it, and you're just trying to learn it in a way. When you kind of already know a scheme, you can kind of grow in it and evolve it in a way to, make it your own. I can speak personally, like on routes and different things. If I already know the scheme and route, I can like kind of, it's my canvas. Like I can draw it this way, I can draw it this way. Like I can do routes different ways. And so I think when you just carry things over, I've loved AVP. I've loved the energy. I've loved the offense that he's brought here. I really do think it's a great scheme, and I think there's a lot of room for growth with everybody with it.
Antonio Gibson. I actually wrote something this morning, if you want to check it out, on 985thesportshub.com. Joe Milton, ahead of what could be his first NFL action, was very complimentary of Alex Van Pelt this week as an offensive coordinator, really as a teacher, especially for the quarterbacks. That's a guy that's gotten a ton of praise inside the locker room. That's a guy that I think the fan base, they were negative on early, and I understand why, have started to come around on. Now, has it been great? Has the offense been great with Alex Van Pelt? No, it is not. The Patriots ranked 30th in the league, averaging just over 16 points a game. It is 3 points more per game. They averaged 13 last year, up to 16. Really 18 in games where Drake May plays the full game. It was better, but that's still, under 20 points a game is not nearly enough. But there is the element of Drake May's development, and that being the most important thing for the Patriots this year. Gerard Mayo called Van Pelt the point person on May's development. I don't even think it was camp. I think it was in the spring that Mayo said that. And Drake May's developed. I don't think you can doubt that. So that brings the question. Let's say Mayo stays. I think if Mayo goes, everybody else is out. They will blow it up. Maybe there's a chance if it's Vrabel. There is a through line with like Mike Vrabel to Alex Van Pelt. Although Vrabel might want to bring Josh McDaniels. That's been some of the reporting. But odds are if Mayo's gone, everybody's gone. But let's say Mayo stays. Somebody's got to go. This team won 3 games, even if it's 4. Somebody's got to go. Has Alex Van Pelt, and let me be clear, because I feel like people talk about bringing Van Pelt back, and it's interpreted as, make him the offensive coordinator for life. No. Has Alex Van Pelt earned just one more year?
Yeah.
To work, because Drake May, the year 2 jump, right? He's going into year 2. We always hear how important the year 2 jump is. And again, Van Pelt, where he's been at his best, is as a teacher. The play calling element maybe isn't what you want it to be, but I think the Patriots, even in year 2, are still in the development stage, primarily with Drake May. Has Alex Van Pelt earned one more year with the Patriots?
I would say yes. And I didn't hear that comment, that clip you just played until just now. And look, that's one thing I would say about this team. These players are really rallying around these coaches. They really like these guys, and it seems like they don't want them to go, which is rare when you see a situation where a team wins 3 or 4 games where you get this much support from your players. And I understand what he's saying. It's like, okay, even for a veteran, this last thing you want to do later in your career is constantly change offenses, learn something new. It's like, okay, this is what you want us to run. Excuse me. Now I know when I do my off-season workouts, so they get together and go to Miami together, they can actually run the plays. They can run the playbook. You can establish something. You can practice different things when you know exactly what you're going to be running, year for year after year. So when you walk into training camp, mini camp, whatever, you already know the deal. You're already ahead of the curve. You're just out there now, just executing as a team. And I think there is something to that. And I think one of the big things we talk about around here was that Mac Jones fall off after everybody changed around him. Do you want to risk seeing that again with Drake May? And I think if May, like I said before, he's probably starting to establish a little power in the building, whatever. He's like, hey, man, can you bring my coordinator back? At the very least, can I get my coordinator to come back? Now, does that mean the offensive skill position guys are safe? No, I think they're going to be the ones who end up getting all the heat when it's said and done. But I think you keep your coordinator around. You let these guys learn. Look, you were asking for most of the season, a rookie quarterback with a second-year, 6th-round pick to his left and to his right, and Pop Douglas and Keyshawn Booty to run this offense. And I think switching up again with those young guys, it just sets them back again. So, I know it hasn't been perfect. I know they've had their issues, and I've been critical of Van Pelt at times. But I do believe you got to give these guys, just like the head coach, I think you got to give these guys time to establish what they want. Let the players understand it, know where they're supposed to be. That way it's second nature. They're not thinking, they're just reacting to certain situations, and let to see how it works. And the other part is, what would this offense look like if you had a little more talent to add to it? You add another free agent class, you add another draft class to it, and see what it looks like. If you put a T. Higgins in the middle of it, it looks totally different. Not saying they're going to get him, but it looks different when you add that kind of talent around it.
How about on the defensive side of the ball, DeMarcus Covington? So I mentioned the Patriots offense has slightly improved from last year. They were at 13.9 points per game last year. They're up to 16.6 this year. That's, again, still not enough, even if you just factor in the Drake May games where they're averaging about 18. They still need to be a lot better. You could argue that's because of talent. Defensively, they brought a lot of guys back. They did lose a couple. Christian Barmore didn't play most of the year. Kyle Duggar's been playing hurt. They traded Matthew Judon, but they went from allowing 21.5 points a game to 25 a game. That's a pretty significant jump. They went from being a middle-of-the-pack defense to the bottom of the league. DeMarcus Covington, should he be back?
Man, he might be the fall guy. And I think with him, unfortunately, he had to deal with a lot of good quarterbacks and a lot of good offenses. Early on, he had to deal with a quarterback that was 3 and out over and over again, putting his defense back on the field for the first month and a half of the season. And then you lose your best interior lineman, your best lineman. You lose him before the season starts, and you lose your best linebacker. Then you lose Peppers. Your captains, your leaders, your big playmakers were gone. I think Barmore and Bentley, they combined for like 13 sacks or something like that last year. Both of those guys were gone. So, I mean, he lost pieces, but I think at the end of the day, he might be the fall guy. I think he might be the one, no matter what happens. If today they go out there and Trubisky puts up 28 points, I think he might as well just go on and head to the car. But I think he's going to be the one on the out. And it's unfortunate because I think he's dealt with the most, I would say, adversity when dealing with injuries, and Pepper's putting himself in that situation off the field, set that whole defense back, along with knowing he had a tough schedule dealing with the offenses and the quarterbacks he had before the season even started.
I think he's the guy. If you're going to make one change, I think you got to make that change.
Yeah, I think he's the one.
I think if Mayo stays, it's about blowing up the whole CEO coach positioning and just having him coach the defense. Because
I could see that. Yeah.
The defense was better last year when he was more involved. He's been less involved with the defense this year. That's one of my big questions about kind of the way he's operated this year, is him not getting more hands-on with the defense when this thing did start to go off the rails. So that's what we think should happen. Just real quick here, because we are a little bit up against it. What do you think ends up happening? Because I think there's a chance both coordinators are gone. I think there's a chance, and there was some reporting this yesterday, that they replaced both coordinators with just more experienced coaches under Gerard Mayo, which they probably should have done last year. Again, I talked about this in the last segment. Rookie head coach, you need some experience in that room. Yeah. And I'm not saying that that's ultimately what's right. I think they need more experience from the top down. But I think we see both coordinators move on. I think they go out, they get guys who've been long-term offensive, defensive coordinators in the league. What about you?
Yeah, I think that was the key to this whole season when it comes to coaching. You got a rookie GM, I would say. You got a rookie head coach. You got a first-time offensive coordinator, a first-time defensive coordinator. They're all learning on the fly at the same time. It's amazing to me that they were, with the talent they have, along with the inexperience, it's amazing to me that they were in a lot of the games that had a chance to win in the fourth quarter. So I think you do have to figure out a way to get some more veterans when it comes to coaching in that locker room. I mean, if you can find older guys at those coordinated positions who they have no aspirations to be head coaches at this point. They're fine being coordinated. They're cool with it. And they love the teaching aspect of it, just like Van Pelt. But just more guys with more experience. I could see that happening. But I think what you said a few minutes ago, I think Covington is the first one to get whacked on Monday when it comes around, because I think the defense is the most unexcusable thing that we've seen from this team all year.
I think it'd be weird if they fire. This is just semantics. I think it'd be weird if they fire one than the other. Like if you're firing them both, fire them both. Say we've relieved these two from their duties. Don't fire one than the other. Yeah. I just feel like that. I don't know. That'd be weird. 617-779-0985. You want to weigh in on the situation of the Patriots coaching staff? How about the players, too? Because there's players on this football team. Some of them could be playing their last game in a Patriot uniform. Pending free agents, who stays, who goes? We'll do that next on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
This is Sean Gray. with a throw that out of the hand of May was sailing in the direction of Polk, and it's Hooper who darts in, makes the catch, and the Patriots regain the lead.
The development of your young quarterback is back on here, and this is a tight window to throw this ball into. Jalen Polk's got to keep going. He's got to take that outside defender. Don't stop at the goal line. You almost made it a play for the tight end. Great job by Hooper to go get this ball where May puts it up nice and high. It's a great read by Drake May.
Back here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff, Alex Barth, Cerrone Battle, getting you ready for Patriots Bills Week 18, the regular season finale. How many of the Patriots pending free agents are playing their last game for the Patriots today? There's a couple notable names. Now, this free agency class isn't big. It's going to be a little under 20 players. Depends. The guys they signed yesterday off the practice squad, I still haven't seen if those were 1 year or 2 year deals. There's a chance they were 2 year deals. They're players they were going to sign to futures contracts anyway, so they give them the league minimum to carry them through for next year. But the big name guys, there aren't a ton. I think there's really 6 players that you look at as like big name pending free agents. Could they or could they not be back? So I'm just going to run through some of these, Cerrone. You tell me if you think these guys are back or not. And we'll start with a couple of cornerstone players. The Patriots do not have many players left from those Super Bowl teams back in the day, but they have a couple who could potentially be playing in their last game today. Jonathan Jones, do you think he's back with the Patriots next year?
No, I don't think he is, man. I don't think he is. I think with his, the years he's put in, I think he's 30, 31 or whatever it is now. I think they're, now I would say going with a youth movement, I think they're going to go with someone, would try to anyway, go with someone more explosive, more of a game-changing player, and I think in the secondary, and I think he's going to be one of the guys on the outs.
I think I wouldn't be surprised, and look, some of this comes down to who's making these decisions, right?
Yeah, true.
Who's running the team, obviously. But that being said, if I could see Jonathan Jones being back, but his role would have to change. Still a young cornerback room. It's probably going to be a young defense overall. He's a veteran. Do you keep him for that leadership tangent? But to me, he's got to move to safety. He's shown this year he's not a man-to-man cover anymore, cover corner anymore. He's got to be a guy on the back end, keeping everything in front of him. But the thing is, if you look at the setup, right, he could do that on another team. If I'm the Houston Texans, young team trying to get over the top, Nick Caserio, familiar with Jonathan Jones, do I call him and say, hey, we'd love to bring you in, defensive leadership role, give you, rotational role in the defense, have you be an important guy in the locker room, and he gets to go there and try to win another Super Bowl? Right. That'd make a lot of sense. I'd be surprised if Jonathan Jones was back, but hopefully he gets his due today for his time with the Patriots. The other guy who's been here, another one of these few Super Bowl champions remaining, Dietrich Wise, could be playing his last game with the Patriots today. Do you think he's back, Cerrone?
No, I don't think so. I think you're going to see a complete overhaul, but I think you're going to see massive changes when it comes to edge rushers and the defensive line.
Yep.
I think you're going to see a lot of changes there because I do think they were very weak in those situations. I think he has 3 or 4 sacks, and 2 of them came against Caleb Williams. So I think they're going to be looking for more explosive guys, younger guys, more game wreckers. And I think he's just past his prime at this point and is no longer even a specialist, I would say, a guy that just comes in on third down and wreaks havoc. I think you're moving on and you're going to try and find a younger version of what he gave you.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think that they're going to redo the defensive front. Again, he's been a good player, but his role was already decreasing this year. They may want to change the way they operate schematically up front. I think there's a really good chance this is Dietrich Wise's last game for the Patriots. Again, he's been a tremendous player here, was a captain this year. Hopefully gets his dues. I know there's people probably ready to go down there and boo today. I'm not saying you're wrong, and we'll get to that in a bit. But Dietrich Wise, good player during his time here. That could end today. All right, let's get to a couple others. Daniel Ekuale has been here for a few years. He's a pending free agent. He's been like a sneaky good player for them over his time in New England. Been hurt a little bit, but with Christian Barmore being as injury prone as he was, and Quality's been a good insurance plan. The two of them are rarely healthy at the same time. He's a pending free agent. He's probably one of the better players they have whose contracts are up. Now, that's maybe saying more about their roster. Is he part of this defensive front overhaul?
I think you have to find okay, who gave me something? Who's capable of giving me something? How was he affected by not having, like you said, Barmore not being there alongside him? And I looked, that front, they didn't show well in a lot of games this year against the run in the middle of the season where they were just getting gashed. So it's not going to look good on his resume. But I think he like him and some of the heavy interior guys are looking like, hey, if we have Barmore out there, if this guy's taking double teams, whatever, I'm able to do my thing. We can anchor this ground defense. I can show you something. And he might be one of the guys that keep around. But again, like you said, it's all about who's going to be the one making the decisions. If you're going to say, nope, that whole front seven's got to go. Well, who's able to go. We're going to have to make changes. So I think it's going to be all up to who's making the decisions when it comes to that defensive line going forward.
How about on the offensive side of the ball? Arguably their best free agency signing. Again, that says more maybe about the class than it does about him. But Austin Hooper has been solid this year. Drake May clearly likes throwing to tight ends, like as many as he can put on the field. Hunter Henry's obviously going to be back, and he's still under contract. The thing with Austin Hooper to me, I'd bring him back. I wonder if after the year he had, if he's going to want to hit the market. And look, he's 30 years old. Does he go out there and maybe get a low-level tight end 1 contract? That would actually be some significant money. Does he go out there and try to find a starting job on his last big contract? I'd love to see him back. I wonder if there's a better situation for him out there and he goes and looks for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd have told me before the season started you were going to get 500 yards and 3 touchdowns on Austin Hooper, I would say sign me up. And I think he showed well. I think he was pretty good. And again, these are numbers he put up when you had Brissett throwing the ball most of the first month and a half of the season. What would some of these guys' stats look like if they were playing with Drake May the whole way? He might have had a 700-yard season, might have got in over 5 touchdowns. So you're right. He could go seek more money or a chance to win a Super Bowl, later in his career. But I would, if it was up to me, I'd keep him around. I thought he showed something. But I do think, I know we're going to get into this in other later shows or maybe possibly even next week, but I do think they need to go out and get a young playmaking tight end in the draft. I think there's some guys out there, bigger versions. The kid that was just, I can't think of the kid's name, but the big 6'6" tight end. I think he's at Penn State.
Oh, but Tyler Warren. Yeah, well, I mean, that's a first-round pick. Now you're shooting up the board, but this is a good tight end class. I'm with you. I think getting somebody to be, replace Hooper as that tight end too, and it's usually a position that develops a little bit, takes a little longer to develop. So you draft a tight end, you have him replace Hooper as that second guy behind Henry, and then eventually take over for Henry when his deal's up. I think that makes sense. Now, you could do that and bring Hooper back and essentially make that guy the third tight end. And, you haven't seen enough from Jaheim Bell this year. I think we should have seen more. But the reality is we haven't seen enough from Jaheim Bell this year to guarantee his roster spot. So I think you can move on there. One more on offense. I doubt this guy's back. I really do, but it could end up being an interesting conversation. Jacoby Brissett. He is kind of still the ideal backup for Drake May. Like I said before, they're still primarily in the learning stage. We know Brissett has done a lot to help May. He's also just objectively, as a backup, one of the best backup quarterbacks in the league. Right? You saw Bailey Zappi and DTR did last night. I'll take him over either of those.
That interception
guys.
To that D tackle was wild.
That was right. How about the big fella? He was smooth with that jumping.
I know that slide was real smooth.
It looked like he's been working on that. We'll get to that, but I there's an argument for Brissett to be back now. I don't think he loved the way things went this year with the nature in which he was bowled. He might also have a chance to start in the way he did for the Patriots this year, especially in a weaker quarterback class. I'm not expecting him to be back. But do you think there's any chance maybe that Brissett is back next year as Drake May's full-time backup?
I agree with you said. I think he is the perfect backup. I think he understands his role. I mean, you don't want to bring some guy in here who's just praying for May's downfall. And look, I think he's a guy you can learn from. He's a good guy to have in a locker room. He's a very smart guy. He seems to be cool and well-liked. Yeah, that's the kind of guy you keep him around. I mean, just to pass on the knowledge and kind of understand, look, I know my role. I know what I'm here to do, whatever. I'm cool in my position. I can come in, I can run the offense, whatever. But so I think he makes a cool backup. You don't want to bring somebody else in here who's just like, man, I want to be a starter. I got to be a starter. And it just creates, something in the locker room that you really don't need. But yeah, I'd bring Brissett back.
But do you think he would come back?
That's another question. No,
I don't.
I think he might get an opportunity, like you said. Some other coach is thinking, hey, I could bring him in. He can be my bridge guy until my other guy gets ready. And he can be a career bridge guy around the league and make good money doing so. So no, I wouldn't blame him for going to get another opportunity.
All right, one more. Joey Sly.
Man.
The kicker is on a 1-year deal. Started the season strong. He was good through the first half. He's kind of fallen off. Is he back, or do the Patriots go find another kicker?
Man, he hits that 65-yard kick. He's got a job. It's amazing a career comes down to inches like that. But look, I think with them bringing in other kickers later in the season and kind of hinting like, man, you're not getting it done. I don't know, man. I don't think he's that safe. I mean, incredible leg strength, incredible power. That's the type of kicker you need in New England. But he's got to be better with his accuracy, and I think they got to be better up front too. Because I think he got a couple tipped or something like that earlier in the year. Yeah. But I think, I'd say keep him around. That leg strength, man, you're gonna need that at some point in time. But yeah, I think you keep him and improve what's in front of him so you don't have those situations pop up again.
I think there's a chance he's back. I don't know how secure he is. Like, I think there's a chance he's back on the roster. Is he competing with somebody come the spring and summer? I think there's a real chance. They have John Parker-Romo on the practice squad. Could they bring him back on a futures deal, sign another veteran, draft a rookie, all the above? I think he's back, but I don't think I think he's back for OTAs. Let me put it that way.
Okay, yeah,
I think he gets a new contract, but I don't think it's going to be a big contract. I don't think it guarantees that he's the week 1 kicker next year. So that's just a quick look at the free agents. I'll have a full list after today's game on 98.5thesportshub.com, but those are the highlights. There's one more player. He's not a pending free agent, but after some developments this week, will he be back next year? We'll do that next here on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
You don't think about life insurance, but we went to SBLI when the baby was born.
for the fans, I've said this before. I'm a fan of different things too. Like, look, no one's happy. No one's happy with our record. No one's happy where we are right now. And the fans, look, they pay the bills, and they come in here and they demand us, demand us to go out there and perform well. And we haven't done that this year. So, look, I understand.
Back here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff, Alex Barth, Cerrone Battle, Kyle Fabrizio behind the glass. That was Gerard Mayo reacting to Jelani Tavai's comments this week across the street, talking about, asked about fans booing Gerard Mayo, said fans need to know their place, said he got into it with the fan during the game last week. Then he talks at his locker yesterday after practice, or Friday after practice, and basically says he's sorry if people were offended, but he's going to defend his own. What'd you make of all of that, Cerrone? How'd you come away feeling from the Jelani Tavai saga this week?
I wasn't really bothered by it either way. I think when you get into it with a player who's losing 40-7 at the end of a 3-win season, they're gonna say some frustrating things. They're humans, and I think. And I've mentioned this a few times before. I think we've gone so long in New England watching players, win or lose, not show too much emotion. Not really, they were basically robots for years under Bill, and that they took after his leadership. That's how Bill was. He didn't get too high, he didn't get too low. Not during game days, press conferences, or things like that. And guys kind of fell in line, from Tom Brady to the guy on the bottom of the roster. That's how they were. And now you're in a situation where that culture is kind of gone, and guys are actually showing emotion. And younger guys, they can't hold it but for so long. And they're going to get into it with fans and stuff like that. It's unfortunate. Excuse me. I understand why people got mad at what he said. And, he tried to walk it back or whatever. But look, I mean, they're defending their coaches. They're defending their guys, their teammates around them. And when these guys, when their backs are against the wall, they're only going to trust and support the people around them, their teammates and their coaches. And unfortunately, sometimes the fans are gonna be the ones that on the bad end of that. It was an unfortunate thing to happen, but look, at the end of the day, if you judge it by the field, I think he's been the best defender all season. Guy has 111 sacks. I think that's top 30 in the league or something like that. 111 tackles. He had 110 or whatever last year, whatever it is. Look, he's 7 tackles for loss. He's been a decent defender this year. A team that's been a bad defensive team, he's been out there smashing. He's been out there getting it in. So when you hear boos at the end of the day, it's like, man, I'm out here putting my body on the line and we're getting booed. He's going to be frustrated. But the fans have a right to boo because of the product you put out there. So, look, it was said, it was whatever, but I don't think that should cause for you to get rid of, probably your second best linebacker outside of when Bentley comes back. Just get rid of a guy that was that productive for you on defensive end when nobody else was really that much productive outside Gonzalez on that whole defensive side of the ball.
So it would be $6.4 million in dead money if they got rid of him this year, plus another $3.4 million last year. I don't ultimately think that's going to happen, but it was a bad look.
Real bad.
It was a bad look. Like, you go at the coaches, you can go at your teammates before you go at the fans. Mm-hmm. Do fans know exactly what they're watching? No, of course not. They're not professional football players. And Jeremy Springer gave a great answer on this on Friday. Take your family of 4 to a game. That's $1,000. Mm-hmm. That might be $1,000 you're spending between parking and concessions and tickets and all of that.
All the stuff, yeah.
And to go watch them lose 40-7, people have a right to be frustrated. The best way to take care of it is winning. Mm-hmm. And they're just not doing that. And I know Tavai's tackle numbers are up. He's taken a step back from last year. He's not been the same player he was last year. So it was just kind of wild to hear. And I actually thought Gerard Mayo had an interesting comment. So Devon Gotcha and Dietrich Wise kind of said similar things, not as explosively as the way Tavai said it, but they said similar things after that game on Saturday. And Mayo was asked about that after Tavai's comments and just the whole thing together. And he said, look, they're getting caught up in trying to defend me. I've told them, look, I appreciate it, but at the same time, the fans are the most important thing here. They want to see good football. They want to see wins. It does feel like guys are maybe getting caught up in the defense of Gerard Mayo.
Yeah.
When, again, you want to make Gerard Mayo look good, win football games. Mm-hmm. Like that, a lot of what's gone on with the Patriots this year and a lot of the stuff with Mayo, the press conferences, the fans booing, just things like that. Winning cures all.
Mm-hmm.
And it does feel like they've maybe gotten away from that a little bit this year. I don't know, Tavai said at one point, like, they've stuck with us. Fans have stuck with us through worse seasons. Anybody under 40? Not really.
Yeah, you got to go back a ways.
Like this is as bad as it's gotten. So you want to turn it around. Like I don't think people around here, and nor should they, are going to be quick to embrace a 3-win team. You got to win games. If you win games, people will buy back in. Because I think Boston sports fans as a whole, across all the sports, if you win, they'll show up. That's not to say they're fair weather. They'll show up when you're losing too.
Oh, there's going to be half full out there today.
you really want to get that kind of buy-in, that local hero status. You got to win. That's just what it comes down to. All right, 617-779-0985. You want to weigh in on that? You can do that, but we do have to go around the NFL. We'll do that next here on the Sports Hub.
WBZ-FM and HD Boston.
Patriots!
From the opening kickoff to the final play.
Touchdown!
Your home of the pass. 98.5. The Sports Hub. Beasley Media Group Station. Sports Hub headlines.
The Patriots close out their 2024 season today, hosting the Buffalo Bills. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff from Gillette Stadium. Coverage begins in an hour right here on 98.5 The Sports Hub. The Patriots, with a loss today, would secure the top overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft. With a win, they can fall as low as 4th. Around the NFL, some notable games. Last night, the Ravens clinched the AFC North with a 35-10 win over the Browns. The Bengals kept their playoff hopes alive with a 19-17 win over the Steelers. Some more games with playoff implications today. The big one, that's tonight when the Vikings take on the Lions for the rights to the NFC North title and the top overall seed in the NFC. Also, Black Monday tomorrow. The Browns getting started early. They have reportedly fired offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey and offensive line coach Andy Dickerson. The Bruins lost last night 6-4 despite 2 goals from David Pastrnak. They're back at it today. Coverage starts at 5:30 on Country 102.5 as they take on the New York Islanders. Celtics play today as well. Coverage starts at 3 o'clock on 105.7 WROR as the C's Western Conference road trip continues against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Sports Hub headlines are brought to you by Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Enjoy quick and convenient vehicle maintenance this month. Visit NewEnglandOilChange.com for 15% off your drive-thru oil change at Valvoline Instant Oil Change, now open in Franklin, Billerica, and Peabody. I'm Alex Barth on Boston's Home for Sports, 98.5 The Sports Hub. Your next update during Patriots pregame.
No matter where you go, you're always connected to Boston sports with the 98.5 The Sports Hub app. Download it wherever you get your apps today. It's never too early to talk football on Sunday.
Coming to the game on Sunday.
This is Sunday Kickoff with Alex Barth and Cerrone Battle on 98.5 The Sports Hub.
Pick a target.
You pick it.
Take your pick.
Pick me! Pick me! I did not pick. There was no pick. Pick him up. You pick him up.
Pick.
I pick.
Pick me.
Take the teams.
Pick one, jerk.
All right, we got a full slate to get to. We're already behind, so let's get right into it. Cerrone, it's Alex Barth, Cerrone Battle. Kyle Fabrizio behind the glass. We start yesterday with the Ravens and the Browns.
Big trust. Woo woo. Lamar Jackson in the flesh.
This was the biggest point spread of the week. Ravens were 20.5-point favorites. They covered. They win 35-10 and are the AFC North champions. And I think Cerrone are the biggest threat in the AFC.
Yeah, I think they are too. But any word on Zay Flowers' knee? I think that was a big thing in that he went out of that game with a knee injury, and I think that'd be tough if he's not able to go. But I think they let Lamar Jackson stay in it a little too long. He took some shots in that game, and I'm like, man, you guys are playing with fire here. But yeah, they're a tough team when they get it going.
I'm with you. I don't know. Louis Riddick was talking about that game late, like it was a 1-score game. When Derrick Henry broke the run, he's like, they finally broke through him. Like, that's their 5th touchdown. So maybe there was something going on in the building where it felt closer than it was, because they were talking about it like it was this back and forth game. It wasn't.
Whether you think they were trying to win him MVP?
Maybe. That might have been part of it. Give it to Michael Pierce, the big fella.
Yeah.
Although he made the right play. He made the right play going down, but I wanted to see him rumble that thing back. Shades of Sammy Adams against the Patriots, and we can laugh about that because the Patriots won the Super Bowl that year. Zay Flowers, the latest report was that it's a sprain. He's expected to miss next week. Likely will miss next week, but could be back after that. Although the Ravens are scheduled to play the Steelers next week, so that may not matter. Let's get to the Bengals and the Steelers.
Looked like Superman when he was throwing it. So I'm calling him Superman from this day forward. Batman, Superman.
The Bengals go into Pittsburgh, hold on to win 19-17 late. Their thin playoff hopes are alive. They'll need a Denver win today. But there's a real chance here, Cerrone. We get the Steelers and the Ravens in the first, I think, if I remember correctly from the broadcast last night, in which case the Ravens might not need Zay Flowers. My big takeaway from this game. Steelers are frauds. Fraud 10-win team. Good for Mike Tomlin for getting that, streak, keeping that streak going, but I'm not buying them. I think they're a one-and-done team.
Yeah, I was so disappointed with Pickens last night. He had several opportunities to make big plays and kept dropping the ball. They went no huddle late in the game, and all of a sudden Russell Wilson woke up, but it was a little too late. And they forced like 3 fumbles on Burrow, but they kept getting them back. But they are looking pretty fraudulent right now. But it would be wild though to watch Cincinnati not make the playoffs after the season they're having offensively.
So the Steelers will be 5 or 6. It hinges on that, but we could get Steelers-Ravens. Mm-hmm. Let's get to today, the 4-12 Panthers at the 8-8 Falcons.
I don't really eat vegetables like this.
What? So you eat like pizza?
Yeah, and like I just started eating asparagus.
Eating what?
Asparagus.
Right?
The Falcons, 8.5-point favorites at home. They need this one to keep their division title hopes alive.
Yeah, I think they're going to be a little hungry today. I think at home, Penix has himself a good game against this Panthers defense that's been really bad. I think the Falcons win this one, and I think they win it kind of going away.
Yeah, I think the Falcons win this one comfortably. Michael Penix starting to get comfortable. Another rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels, 11-5 Commanders at 7-9 Cowboys.
I've eaten a lot of raccoon, yes, but one of my favorites is squirrel. We all had our favorite pieces, and my mom and I wouldn't even ask for the brain.
Convenient those two clips were back-to-back. I think that was Jerry Jones responding to Xavier Legette. Commanders, 6.5-point favorites on the road.
Yeah, give me the Commanders in this one. It'd be Cowboys going to play them hard, division game, big rivals, but I think the Commanders will win this one and kind of pull away late.
4-12 Bears at the 11-5 Packers.
I'm tired, Grandpa.
The Packers, 10.5-point favorites.
Yeah, Packers cover that 10.5. I think they win. They blow the Bears out in this one. And I think the Bears are in a situation where a lot of these 4-win or less teams are in. They're not trying to really win a lot of these games, so you're going to see some backups out there. So give me the Packers in this one.
I think you might see the Bears cover that. Like you said, you'll see backups. You're going to get guys playing hard for jobs. I don't think the Packers are playing for anything. They're locked into the wild card. They can't win the division. I know that. So maybe seeding, but I think Bears cover 10.5. In the AFC South, the 4-12 Jaguars at the 7-9 Colts.
I mean, no. I mean, it's kind of a strange question, but okay.
Colts, 3.5-point favorites.
I guess I'll take the Colts in this one. These guys really don't have nothing to play for, and it's just going to be backups out there. And yeah, it's unfortunate, but I want to see competitive games this weekend, but I don't know how many we're going to get.
I'll take the Colts. I think the Jaguars, there's some reports that, the decisions have already been made, coach, GM, things like that. Real weird time down there in Jacksonville. Give me the Colts to win and cover. Patriots, Bills we'll get back to, but I will tell you, Patriots are 3.5-point underdogs. It was also the lowest total of the week, 36.5 points. Not expecting that Matt Flynn game from Joe Milton, I guess. How about the 13-3 Giants? 3-13 Giants at 13-3 Eagles.
All right, I like that answer.
The Eagles, 2.5-point favorites, even resting everybody that they're resting.
This is interesting because I don't know if the Giants are going to ease up. I mean, like you said, it's 40-plus points last week. I think them dudes are going to play hard, man. I got a feeling they're going to play hard, and they're going to mess around and win this game. Give me the Giants.
I like that pick, and I think the Eagles really are going to, the mentality's there. Saquon sitting. Jalen Hurts has been banged up. They're really going to be resting. I could see the Giants going into Philly. Eagles really aren't playing for anything and pulling this one off, especially after the way they played last week. Still in the 1 o'clock window here, the 5-11 Saints at 9-7 Buccaneers.
Go home and play Pokemon.
Yeah, Pokemon.
Yeah.
Don't do that. You can't disrespect Pokemon like that. Pokemon.
This is the largest spread of the week. Tampa, win clinches them the division. 14.5-point favorites at home over the Saints.
Yeah, give me them to cover. They're going to run it up on these guys. They're trying to get in. They're going to be playing hard. I think the Buccaneers have been a pretty decent team this year when they're healthy. So give me Tampa in this one, and I expect them to blow them out.
That's a huge line in a divisional game for me, even in Week 18. Mm-hmm. So I'll take the Saints to cover 14.5, but this is like a 10-point game. I do think the Bucs win and win relatively comfortably. Final game, the 1 o'clock window, 9-7 Texans at 3-13 Titans.
Will Levis, quarterback at the University of Kentucky, and I have been known to put mayonnaise in my coffee sometimes.
Yeah, that's the guy they decided to tie their franchise to, trying to lose today to have a shot to replace him. Titans, though, 1.5-point favorites against the Texans team, resting a lot of starters.
Yeah, the Titans still aren't winning this game. I think they're going to do whatever they can to stay in that position that they're in right now. Give me the Texans in this one. I think the Texans are deeper, so I think their backups are going to be too much for the Titans in this situation. So give me the Texans.
I'm with you on that. I'll take the Texans. The Titans starters are not good. They're not good. I'll take the Texans backups. In the 4 o'clock window, both these teams eliminated the 6-10 Niners at 7-9 Cardinals.
When you go that long, everyone needs to get away, and by the time you come back, it's usually right when free agency is starting, and you're not totally quite there yet. So just being a lot more ahead of that is real exciting.
Cardinals 4.5-point favorites.
Man, you talk about a team that's kind of under the radar when it comes to some changes needed, man. The Niners, 11, if the end of the season with 11 L's, I mean, that's tough. But give me the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals right now are a better team, even if they're resting everybody. And the Niners are just so banged up and out of it right now. I don't think they can get it together.
I'll take the Niners mainly because I can't picture them with 11 losses. But the fact Schefter had a tweet out this week that Kyle Shanahan's job is safe. The fact that even needed to be said, I think, is notable. Pretty big stakes in this one. 15-1 Chiefs at 9-7 Broncos.
There's still a little bit of Ferris Bueller in this player that we got to get rid of.
The Broncos, if they win, they are in. If they lose, the Bengals need a Miami loss, but they're not starting Tua. That would put the Bengals' Cinderella playoff chances. It would kickstart them. The Broncos 10.5-point favorites against the Chiefs team starting Carson Wentz.
Give me the Broncos. I think the Broncos, I like what the Broncos have done this year. I think they're really dominant in the trenches on both sides. Give me the Broncos. They're going to be playing hard against a Chiefs team that's not really trying to do anything at all. Just get out of there alive. So give me the Broncos in this one.
Yeah, I think that defense puts Carson Wentz in hell. I think the Broncos win that one comfortably. I think they cover the 10.5. The 10-6 Rams hosting the 9-7 Seahawks.
The first thing I told Coop was, I was like, man, I was a little horny in my route.
Both these teams are more or less set. The Rams playing for seeding. They'll be 3 or 4. Seahawks are out. Rams resting guys, 7.5-point underdogs at home.
Yeah, I guess give me the Seahawks in this one. Division game, going to be kind of tough, but give me the Seahawks. If the Rams are sitting everyone, give me the Seahawks in this one.
Yeah, it's Jimmy Garoppolo. Give me the Seahawks. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. Give me the Seahawks. Cover 7.5. 10-6 Chargers at 4-12 Raiders.
Like Moses, I'm gonna die leaning on my staff.
Chargers, they're in just playing for seeding. They're 4.5-point favorites.
Yeah, I mean, how much of the Chargers are going to play their guys, and how much of the real Chargers are going to show up? Are they a 40-point team we saw last week, or are they a little more fraudulent than that? But the Raiders are similar to the Giants, man. They're kind of playing harder now than they did when it mattered, and they really don't care about that pick. You know what? I'm going to take the Raiders. I think the Raiders are going to try and win this game, and I don't know what the Chargers, how hard they're going to play in the second half.
They close the season with 3 wins in a row. If the Raiders win this, I think they're playing to save Antonio Pierce's job. I think the players like him. Give me the Raiders. Final game of the 4 o'clock window, 8-8 Dolphins at 4-12 Jets.
Really beautiful feet.
Yeah, the Jets interviewed Rex Ryan, or they're expected to interview Rex Ryan this week. This is a pick 'em. No Tua for Miami. Rodgers is expected to start for the Jets, who are technically half-point favorites.
Give me the Dolphins. I know they don't have Tua, but I think the rest of their team is playing hard. They're trying to make the playoffs. For them to make the playoffs after what they've gone through this season, I think would be a decent accomplishment. And I think they're trying hard to get that last spot. The Jets are a complete mess. And, hey, you can end up by tonight with the Patriots and Jets with the same record. Is wild to me, considering the rosters. But give me the Dolphins in this one.
34 degrees at kickoff for a Mike McDaniel coach team. Give me the Jets. And then the big game tonight, NFC North title on the line. Number 1 seed on the line. Bye on the line. Pride on the line in this divisional matchup. A high of 56 points. The Minnesota Vikings visit the Detroit Lions.
The last time somebody called me classless, I was drinking wine out of a bottle. All right.
Detroit, 2.5-point favorites at home.
Give me, you know what? Give me Minnesota. I think Detroit's injuries on defense, is going to show up against good teams like this that can really put up a ton of points. And give me Minnesota at home. I mean, this is what you want for the end of the season. You want to see these competitive division games. You don't get a lot of them, but this is a good one to have to close the season out. Give me Minnesota on the road against Detroit.
I think it's Minnesota. I think so, too. They've just been the more prepared team all year. They've been, as weird as this sounds, the steadier team all year, even though both teams are 14-2. I mean, we're splitting atoms here, but I love the job Kevin O'Connell's done. He's going to win Coach of the Year, and I still think he's the most underrated coach in the league. Give me Minnesota. That's Week 18. Obviously, no buys. If you're setting your fantasy lineup, you're still playing fantasy in Week 18. You might need to talk to your commissioner.
I got a question for you when we come back about Minnesota. When we come back.
We can fit it in right here real quick. What is it?
Real quick. Would you trade J.J. McCarthy?
Absolutely.
For a top pick?
Their best case scenario, J.J. McCarthy turns into Sam Darnold. It's the mystery box in the boat. And I don't think they will. I think they're going to let Darnold walk, and they'd be dumb to do it. But we'll see. I'd like to see him prove me wrong. Speaking of quarterbacks, Drake May, what's his plan today? We'll do that next here on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff is on the way on the Sports Hub.
come up and make an offer. And it's not going to be a Bryce Young level offer that Chicago got, and it's literally franchise changing, but it will be better than that one pick.
You want volume of draft picks, and we've seen what a high draft pick can go for. And so if I'm a Patriots fan, I'm rooting for two things. I'm rooting for a loss on Sunday to Mitch Trubisky and the Bills, and I'm rooting for Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders to get red hot over the next 2 or 3 months, to the point where you have these quarterback needy teams behind you. The Raiders, I think, will be under a mandate to go draft one from their owner. The Giants need one. They've done a ton of work. The Titans will need one. You're able to create a market for that pick. Look, like all that stuff about being competitive and building a winning culture, you're not doing that on Sunday against Mitch Trubisky and the Bills. That's not happening. Buffalo's mailing it in on Sunday. There's nothing to be gained on Sunday. You want to lose and go get the number 1 overall pick.
Number 1 overall pick on the line today for the Patriots at Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff. Alex Barth, Cerrone Battle, Kyle Fabrizio behind the glass. Before we get to the first overall real quick, Walter in Cambridge has been hanging on patiently. Walter, good morning.
Hey, yeah, to me, I'm 62 years old, and it's been baffling to hear some of the people talking about they want Vrabel. If Vrabel was coaching this roster, he'd have 3 wins. It's like people expecting, I think Covington should be gone, but they're expecting him to come in and do what Bill Belichick did with a bunch of backup and USFL guys like Ellis. Tavai was a backup his whole career. It's like this. I want them to get the first pick so they can maybe keep their team's first pick in the first round, maybe 2 in the second. They have to overhaul this whole roster. This is basically the 0-16 Detroit type roster. You guys keep bringing up guys who they should keep. Them guys wouldn't start anywhere in the league. It's it needs to be a whole wall. You don't have Bill here for the Band-Aid. Bill's the only guy I ever seen in my lifetime that could take back up his special teams guys and make a top 10 defense with.
Yeah, Walter, thanks for the call. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Roster talent, number 1 issue for the Patriots.
Yes.
Number 1, beyond the coaching, whether Mayo stays, whether he goes, whether you hire Vrabel, whether you hire Flores, whether you hire Dayball, whether you bring Bill Belichick back. We saw Bill with this roster last year.
4 wins.
Right. And that's not to knock Bill, just the roster's not good enough.
Yeah.
And that is issue number 1.
Yeah.
Good players will make bad coaches look good. And if you're somebody who disagrees, I ask you this question. Look, neither of these should be on the table. But if you had to pick one, would you rather the same roster with new coaches or the same coaches with a better roster?
Yep.
And you should be choosing better roster every time.
Yeah, and with that being said, I know we even got into it, but his name kind of always drifts off. We move on to something else all across sports radio. Elliot Wolf, man, should he be the one on the hottest seat?
Yeah,
the roster building. It seems to be he gets not getting away with it, but we kind of jump back to Mayo. We jump back to Van Pelt. We talk more about Covington than we do about the guy who actually builds the roster in Elliot Wolf. Should his name be mentioned a lot more this week than Mayo?
So we talked about this last week. I think some of that is just the nature in which the NFL is discussed. You don't really talk about the front office in season because it's the day-to-day, and the coach runs the day-to-day.
Yeah.
As soon as Gerard Mayo steps off that podium after the game tonight, Elliot Wolf becomes essentially the face of the Patriots organization for the next 4 months, assuming he's back.
Yeah.
If not, it's whoever takes his place. But once this game ends today, especially if they end up with the first overall pick.
Yeah, he's got the toughest task.
You know, Drake may obviously face the franchise, all that, but he's not on the field. We're not watching him every Sunday in the offseason. The general manager becomes the face of the franchise. He is going to be the most talked about individual in relation to this team over the next 4 months. I don't think people are trying to bury Elliot Wolf. I just think it's not the time. It hasn't been a sexy topic to talk about the GM the last few weeks, even if it was warranted. Come tomorrow? Come tonight? Really? Elliot Wolf's on the clock. 100%. Don't get that twisted. That being said, how important is the first overall pick? To me, the first overall pick, don't get me wrong, it would help. It would be a big help, and it would be big if the Patriots could get it. But the first overall pick is not about this offseason. They can do what they need to do this offseason without the first overall pick. I truly believe that.
Yeah.
What the first overall pick is about is 2026. Because if they get the top pick, they should be trading down. And it's about that extra asset you get. And I'm much more interested. You're going to get the first round pick back this year. You're moving down. You're not trading out.
Right.
The next biggest get to me is a 2026 first round pick. If they can add an extra first next year, we'll see what they get after that. I know some people have kind of downplayed the package they'll get because it's not as good of a draft class, yada, yada, yada. But if they can get a future first, like a first next year, that's massive. That's massive. That's what the first round pick is about to me. This offseason, I think, looks more or less the same, whether they're picking first or picking fourth. It's about what it does for them in the long term, but then it comes down to you still have to execute that trade. That's obviously going to happen this offseason. When I say, it's about next offseason, about the players acquired, it's a major story this year in terms of the trade, and then it's do you trust Elliott Wolf to make the trade? And if I'm the Crafts, when I sit down with him Monday for the year-end wrap-up, if I'm deciding whether or not I'm bringing him back, that question basically dictates it. What's your plan for the first overall pick? And he has to have a good answer.
Yeah. And with me, I agree with you with that. And it's not so much about the pick, getting number one pick. Okay, got the number one pick. Yeah, if you needed a quarterback or something like that, I think it's like, we got to get that number one pick. We need one of these quarterbacks to start a franchise. Excuse me. But I think it's key what you do with that number one pick, what you get in return. If you come back with a bad deal on the other end, I think fans are going to really lose it if they see the return is not what they expected. Now, some fans are going to be upset because they expect that number one pick to be, 3 first rounders this year and then first round of next year. They expect something crazy. Fans are going to think that way.
I think on top of that too, like the Bears moved down from 1 to 9 to get that haul. The Patriots should not be moving down that far because they still need a blue chip player. You move down to like 3 or 4, you may just get that future first. But I think that's enough.
I think so too. But I think a lot of fans that we had people call yesterday was like, oh, you get a first and second this year and a first and second next year. It's like, I don't think there's nobody in the draft that teams are going to do that for. I don't think that a player could become great down the line, but I think evaluating the draft, I don't think people are going to give you that type of return. But it's about what you do with that pick. If you get a first round pick next year and you can snag one of them young receivers that are coming out, next year's draft or something like that, you can really build your roster fast, that way.
Yeah.
But it's all about what you do with that pick. You can make the trades. Okay, we got 2 first rounds this year, and then completely whiff on both picks. And then we're sitting there like, dang, maybe you should have just took Travis Hunter. There's going to be a lot of second guessing. But I think it's all about what you do with that pick. If you're picking fourth, it's what you do with that fourth pick. You can still trade the fourth pick, but I think it's what you get in return and what you do with it is going to determine how we judge this whole result here.
617-779-0985. I see you guys on the phones. We'll get to you next, and we'll talk about what's the plan for Drake May in this game. What's the plan for the Patriots in this game today against the Buffalo Bills in Week 18? Coming up on the Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff.
More Sunday Kickoff coming up on the Sports Hub.
Home isn't just a place. It's a state of...
whatever, and then the defense is not playing good, or the defense is really good, the offense is bad. Mayo might be better than it just creates unnecessary issues in the locker room, in the media especially. So no, I wouldn't do that.
Let's go to Chris in Medford on the game today. Chris.
Hey, how's it going?
Hey,
what's going
on? About tanking games. Exactly how does that work? Do they get the guys in the locker room before the game and say, "Hey, listen, we're going for the first. We want the first pick here. Let's, play half speed." Like, how does this all work?
Yeah, no, it's that's tanking. Tanking is the beginning of the year. Ownership decides they need a reset for a pick, and they have a lesser roster. You're not going to see players go out and try to throw the game today. There's no incentive for them to do that.
Yeah, tanking is we're going to trade Devontae Adams halfway through the season. Good luck with everybody else. That's how it works.
But what I'm saying here, so you're telling me that the Patriots A team, right, can't beat the Bills B C team?
Can or can't? Yeah, I think they can. Yeah,
of course they can.
Okay, so what are they going to do today? Like the players? Are the players going to be like, "Fuck, if we win"? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, all right. We got your. You get that, Kyle? All right, we got to drop you there.
Yeah. The players are going to play hard.
The players are going to go out and play when they're on the field.
Yeah.
The only question is, how long will they be out there? And that kind of brings me to my point. Does Gerard Mayo know he has job security or not? And if so, would he sit guys in order to lose the game and help the pick? Or is it just in general you want to keep these guys healthy? The nightmare scenario today, and I kind of don't even want to put this out there, but just so people understand. The nightmare scenario today is not that the Patriots win and lose the first overall pick.
It's injuries.
Right. The nightmare scenario today is something happens to Drake May that he has to miss time this offseason and can't make the most of that year 2 jump in his development.
Right.
And even potentially miss time in a camp or into next year. That is the worst possible outcome today.
Yeah. I mean, something as simple as, he's got a slight elbow injury or something like that. So now that's 2 months of him not throwing the football.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? It doesn't have to be an ACL. That's worst case. But it could be as simple as, hey, his hand hit the back of somebody's helmet. He cracked his thumb. He can't throw the football for 2 months. That's 2 months less of reps he's getting. So that's the worst case. Getting the fourth pick is not the worst case scenario. It's your quarterback hurting his hand or his elbow or something like that.
So that being said, and I wrote this on 985thesportshub.com in my game preview, I'm actually okay with Drake May starting this game. And I'll tell you why. Drake May, we want him to be, and he is supposed to be, franchise quarterback, superstar quarterback, one of the faces of the league. Maybe he's not there right now as a rookie on a 3-win team, but that's what the team's trying to build him up to be. Those guys start these games. Josh Allen's starting today.
Josh Allen's starting,
because he has that started game streak. It's important to him. It's important to the Bills. They want to continue that.
Aaron Rodgers is playing today.
He might be cooked, but I think that matters, right? Brady's game started streak we talked a lot about. Peyton Manning had that streak. Now Drake May's got to stay healthy, obviously, to do that. But in 4 or 5 years, if he's a great player, don't we want to talk about how ever since he took that starting job, he hasn't sat for a game, right? Now, that being said, and again, if it's good enough for Josh Allen, it's good enough for Drake May. But what's Josh Allen going to do? He's going to come in, hand the ball off 3 times, and be done.
Maybe throw a screen.
Maybe
and that's
a
it.
quick pass that's designed to get the ball right out of his hands.
Yep.
I do the same with Drake May. Happy they're starting him, but do not put him in harm's way by any means. I would hand it over to Joe Milton. We haven't really gotten a look at Joe Milton this year. The Patriots, we talked about Jacoby Brissett earlier. He'll probably be gone. They're going to need a backup quarterback next year. Can you see enough from Joe Milton that maybe you're comfortable that, hey, box is checked. We're good on the whole backup quarterback thing. Maybe he shows you enough that suddenly he becomes a trade asset, either this year or down the road. I go to Matt Flynn. Set all the Packers single-game passing yard records in a meaningless game against the Lions in the final week of the season. Now, he was a pending free agent, but he got a big contract from the Seahawks after that.
Yeah.
So I like that Drake May's starting.
Yeah, it's just how long does he go?
Right.
Yeah.
It needs, check the box that he started and move on.
Yeah, I give him a series.
Should be for me. Now,
it's a preseason game.
Exactly. The way they're talking, though, I think we might see him a little bit more. The way they've kind of talked about it down there this week.
Yeah, and I think you But you hit the nail on the head, though, with the way you describe how Josh Allen's going to play it.
Right.
Yeah, he could be out there, but if he's handing the ball off 80% of the time or throwing a quick slant or a screen, I think that's fine. It keeps him out of harm's way. He's on the field. You get in the red zone or something like that. He throws a fade or something crazy. But him sitting in shotgun 20 times in the first half, I don't think is going to be the case, especially with this offensive line and situation, the way he got hit last week. And you saw, we jokingly said it, but it happened. Josh Allen 2 weeks ago, we said, man, what if this guy hits his hand on somebody's helmet or something like that? Sure enough, he's shaking his hand and all that stuff. And it's like, oh, that could be dangerous for the Bills. You don't want that happening with Drake May. So he's going to get his reps. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be handing that ball off and getting rid of it quickly. And they're not going to try to put him in harm's way. Anything can happen, but I don't think they're going to try and put him in a tough spot.
I hope not. Let's take one more call here before
now that can get you fired.
That's the fireable offense. And
there it is, right there.
That game last week with the Chargers, that was as fireable as anything. That Drake May was in the game as late as he was. If he'd gotten hurt in that situation, down 30-something points.
Yep, Drake May in the third quarter tears an ACL, everybody's gone.
Yeah,
put it like that.
I'm glad he's starting. I really don't need to see him do anything more than check that box. That's where I'm at today. John in the car on the coaches. John.
Hey, guys. Happy New Year, Alex. Happy New Year, Cerrone. How you guys doing?
Good.
New Year. I'm going to disagree with you, Cerrone. I think you got to blow this whole thing out. And hear me out. I think it was a major mistake for Kraft to put the contract language in to a guy that's only been a coach for 5 years, has never coached outside of New England, has a very little network of coaches that he can rely on. And they're going to have, if they blow up like just coordinators this year, they're going to have trouble getting coaches. They had trouble getting coaches last year. Don't give me that. Yeah, they have Drake May. Guess what? If they suck next year, that new coach you bring in, they're all fired anyways. So to me, you have $150 million of cap space, the possible first pick in Drake May, blow it out, bring in someone like Mike Vrabel or Ben Johnson, and let's just start new. Because I think that this roster this year, while the roster's not good, if you had Mike Vrabel on this roster right now, I think they win 5 or 6 games. There's so many issues that Gerard Mayo had down the stretch with, missed fourth down calls or just complete repeat mistakes. With guys making mistakes and not holding this team accountable. That's, to me, the biggest issue is he does not have any accountability, and the locker room is falling apart, in my opinion, because of it. Guys speaking out in the media, it's just ridiculous down there. They need to clean house after today, win or lose. I don't care. I want him gone.
Thanks for the call, John. He does some of that stuff that we've already addressed. He did bring up the point of if you keep Mayo and move on from the coordinators, which I think is what we might see.
Yeah.
Both coordinators go, Mayo stays, maybe get some other changes at the positional coaching level. Are you worried about it being tough to fill those roles under Mayo?
Not really, because having Drake May as a quarterback is sexy to an offensive coordinator. They're going to want to go somewhere where they have a quarterback that makes them look good. And if this kid is there, okay, we got these picks. If I can just get him that receiver in the draft or free agency, there's somebody watching Drake May every week. Like, if I had him, I'd do this. If I get a hold of him, I can do that. There's somebody out there who's hungry to coach in the NFL on the offensive coordinator level. A quarterback coach is somebody out there who's think they're the next Ben Johnson. And they're like, man, this quarterback can kickstart me. They're not thinking about Mayo. They're thinking about that quarterback. And here's the other part of it. They're looking at Mayo and saying, hey, he might not be here after another year. What a good spot to be in, to be the coordinator of Drake May. And if Mayo gets fired, I can slide right in and be the next head coach of the Patriots. So it is attractive to an offensive coordinator. Defensive coordinator might be a little different because there's no real pieces over there that the guys say, it's ready-made for me. But an offensive coordinator, they're looking at Drake May, and they're looking at Mayo possibly being on the hot seat and thinking, I can slide right in and take that spot.
So I think it's a coach-to-coach basis, kind of what you just said. I think there are going to be some coaches that look at it and say, if I'm tied to Gerard Mayo and he doesn't work out, I'm going to be there for a year, maybe less, and I'm gone. And these guys care about job security above all else, above the players they're coaching, above the system they're in. You could even argue above what they're being paid on a year-to-year basis, because job security is, long-term financial security.
Yep.
So you might see some guys, like the caller said, that look at it and say, well, there's no security here. There's no guarantee Mayo's back after next year. A new coach might want his own staff. That scares me. You might get another kind of individual that looks at it and says, coach is on the hot seat. If I go here and I take this job, I do a good job, I could end up the head coach. Mm-hmm. Maybe I'm the interim, and then after Mayo gets fired and I get this thing going, and this is a path to head coaching for me. So some of it is how the Krafts sell it, too. I'm sure you'd have guys ask about that in interviews. Some of it's how the Krafts sell it, but I do think that you do run the risk of, I understand why the head coaching job may be as popular an opening as it's being presented. The coordinator jobs, that's going to be more of a person-to-person basis. All right, we got to hit the break. We'll be back. Last segment of the regular season game picks on Sports Hub Sunday Kickoff coming up next.
Stay tuned for more Sunday Kickoff on the Sports Hub.
You deserve a car that thrills you.
off season. The plan is to, again, run this thing through the draft, just like we did last year. So we'll be back next week, same time, and do so moving forward. But, again, just with it being the end of the season, very appreciative of everybody who tuned in this year, one episode, the whole season, anything in between. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you stick with us for the off season as well, though I think the off season may be what more people are tuning in for, to see what happens with this team. That will in large part be dictated today, Cerrone. Will we spend the beginning of next week's show talking about what to do with the first overall pick or not? What happens today?
I got a feeling they're going to win this game. I got a feeling they're going to score the most points they've scored all season. It's just one of these weird games, a bunch of backups, turnovers, pick sixes, strip sacks, fumbles, stuff like that. I think is going to happen a lot today. I think they're going to win this game. Mitch Trubisky, I just don't trust anything he does. I mean, it's a mess, but I think they're going to play hard. I think they're going to try and win this game. Not so much the starters, but I'm looking forward to Joe Milton. I want to see Jaheim Bell. I want to see, it's like a preseason game. I want to see Baker. I want to see these guys, do something, put something on film and see what these guys can do on a football field. And, get whatever fans go out there and show up, give them something to cheer about, even if it's Baker catching a 50-yard bomb down the sideline, down 20. It doesn't matter. I think the fans they're going to be there to look for that stuff. And I think you're going to get a lot of that. I mean, Joe Milton throwing it 70 yards to Baker running down the sideline is going to be fun to watch, even if he doesn't catch it. But I got a feeling they're going to score a lot of points today, high-scoring game. And I do think they win this game. Now, I think some of the teams that they're battling with for that number one spot are playing tougher opponents. So I think they're going to catch L. So it's going to be interesting, but I do think they win this game.
I want to tongue-in-cheek say 45-41 Bills, because that was the score of the Matt Flynn game, which I've been talking about all week. I don't think they quite get there. I think it's high-scoring. I do think the Bills end up winning it, though. I think the Patriots has come up short, especially on the defensive end. I'm going to say 35-31.
Yeah, I can see that.
So, again, thanks so much, everybody who tuned in all year. Kyle Fabrizio behind the glass as well for joining us this season. We'll be back next week. In the meantime, check out 985thesportshub.com for coverage of today's game and getting into the offseason. You can check out the show on the Sports Hub YouTube channel or Sunday Kickoff, wherever you get your podcast. Patriots pregame coming up next. Jim Murray, Chris Gasper down at Gillette. I will talk to you all. Me and Cerrone will talk to you all next week. Enjoy the game and buckle up for the offseason, everybody. Talk to you then. Bye.
Towns Fair Tire Studios, the Patriots.
Into the end zone.
Here.
Touchdown for the Patriots.
WBC FM and HD Boston 98.5, the Sports Hub, a Beasley Media Group station. This is Patriots Preview, driven by the all-electric Honda Prologue.
Jones to backpedal, right side of the 16, stab left, ran it right, down the sideline, to the 40, to the 50, to the